Hello everyone, welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Once we hit 5,000 subscribers, we'll be celebrating with a special jersey giveaway. 2 lucky subscribers will have the chance to win a jersey of their choosing. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're just joining the fun, this giveaway is our way of saying thank you for your support. So spread the word, hit that subscribe button, and let's reach our goal by the end of July. Now, back to the video. Copa America was a complete disaster for the U.S. men's national team. It really highlighted the deficiencies of the Greg Berhalter era and kind of left a lot of fans wondering what's next, what's going to happen. Well, because of this poor performance and the pressure that everyone's put on, it looks like the U.S. Soccer Federation is going to finally move off of Greg Berhalter. But I wanted to dissect what went wrong for the U.S. men's national team at Copa America. So I brought on Adam Turner to look back, see what happened, and reflect on where things went wrong for the U.S. men's national team. Adam, how's it going, man?
What's up, Will? I'm here.
Man,
I'm here. That's all I can say. I'm here. It's been a whirlwind week.
Man, I tell you what, when we did our Copa America predictions, we were kind of like laying out a couple possibilities of, what we thought we could do as a team where we'd finish. I think we joked about grouping, but we thought that was, very unlikely. And here we are, man. We got grouped. And
it felt, if I remember right, maybe I can't remember if I said it with you or with Tack, but it felt like semis and grouped felt like a similar likelihood to me. It was like I feel like either one of those two things can happen and they probably won't, right? It just felt like the most likely was what didn't happen. But they were in play. I thought semis was in play if, like, it's crazy to say that, but like if this team was firing on all cylinders, right, coached up, motivated, which I think we kind of knew based on the friendlies, like that might not be all the way there, but it's possible. And getting grouped is possible, right? And like people, we still at time, I'm as much of a victim as anybody. We still overrate our pool at times a bit, I think. I don't think our players are as good as we thought they would be 3 years ago. And I think that's okay. They're still really good. They should still beat Panama. We should still have a coach that can figure out how to deal with a red card, especially once we get up 1-0 and manage that game to at least get a point. But we don't have that coach. So I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, we looked at that group stage and yeah, like you said, just talent alone, we thought this should be a cakewalk to at least advance to the to the quarterfinals. I mean, you should beat Panama. Hell, you should beat Panama even if you've got a team full of MLS players. You should beat Bolivia if you have a team full of MLS players. That shouldn't be an issue. That shouldn't even be a question if you're beating those teams. And we took care of business against Bolivia. Obviously, we left some goals on the table. We didn't score as much as we could have. That was like the first eye-opening experience for me. Like, oh man, this is not like you can't play like that against these other teams, or you're gonna get the doors blown off, or you're going to have a trap game and lose to a team you should beat. So that was a bad sign for me at Bolivia. Then Panama happens. Timothy Way gets a red card. And, like you just said, I know that did affect the game, but dude, we should have still beat them. We should have adapted and made adjustments to at least at the bare minimum get a draw with Panama.
And so if you go game by game, right? Bolivia, I think there were some really nice things happening in the Bolivia game. I think the problem that we saw is something that I think has plagued this team for years. And you could kind of go chicken or egg. Is it coach? Is it players? In terms of like final third decision making, ability to finish off plays. Pepe had 2 pretty decent chances on crosses that kind of came to his feet. They weren't the easiest balls. They weren't sitters, but they were like, balls you could score on. There were a couple other okay moments. Most of the other things I saw were like decent ball progression and kind of just wasted passes, wasted shots in the final third versus being able to like really build to that higher percentage moment consistently, right? Like what the best teams do, if like I was watching the France game yesterday, right? Like both of those teams had a lot of chances happening over and over and over again to the point that when I was watching that, I was like, man, this should be 2-1. And I think it was 0-0, and I was like, gosh, like that's a lot of chances. We didn't really have that, right? We had the 2 peppy moments, maybe 1 or 2 others, but you have to get like 10 moments like those peppy moments to score more than 2 goals, right? And I think at the end of the day, we had like 4 or 5 moments in that game, and we scored 2, right? If you want to have, I was watching a little bit, I didn't watch it all, but watching a little bit of Panama just getting their doors blown off today. And like Colombia just has moment after moment after moment, right? They didn't score 5 goals on 5 moments. They had like 15 to 20 moments and they scored 5 goals. So that was my biggest worry in the Bolivia game is like, are we going to create enough moments against anyone to actually get key wins? And are we going to create enough moments against Panama to win?
Yeah, one of the things too that I noticed, and obviously you have a coaching background in basketball and you've coached several teams. One of the things I noticed about the tournament in all 3 games, Adam, is that no matter what, there was a certain group that was underperforming, whether it was the center backs in one game or the midfield wasn't doing enough, or they couldn't score goals in general, or Matt Turner was having a bad game. They couldn't put together a full 90 minutes of a complete game where everybody was at least average to good. It was some area was deficient in so in one game, in one way or another, in one of these games, and that is a prime example of coaching. I think of just something isn't working right. There's a fault or a jam in the cog, and that's one of the things I wanted to see. I wanted to see what this team. You talked about earlier about us overrating our talent, and maybe these guys aren't as good as we rate them. But wouldn't it be nice to see what the hell these guys could do? One game where everything just clicks and everything just like you could just see the whole picture one time and just see what this team is really made of.
Yeah, I'll give you. I mean, this has always been my assessment, and it's really hard, which is why it always creates pretty decent arguments on the X Twitter machine. Is like you can argue it both ways because like none of us are really inside the doors and know exactly how rigid the system is, how it's being coached day in and day out when he gets them in camp. How complex it is, which is a big buzzword with the system that people use. I think Tap Ramos used it in his article that he or his interview that he did with Soccer America. So like here's my thing on that, right? And I'll give you kind of a personal anecdote. So I think in my 4th or 5th year, we were like shifting gears with our personnel, and I wanted to like shift gears with our offense, right? And I found this offense that was like very hot at that time. It was Brad Underwood's, he has this like spread offense. Now I won't go through all the details here. People probably don't care, but like the point is like I loved the offense. I saw it at a clinic that Brad Underwood did. I've been watching him a lot. He was kind of like the big Cinderella story that year in the tourney. He had just gotten the Oklahoma State job, and I was like, man, this offense is so cool. And like the offense, very clearly, you needed to have highly skilled big dudes who shot it, right? But we didn't have that. And like I loved the offense so much that I was just like gung-ho. I was like, no, we are running this. And we'll figure it out. It's such a good offense. We'll figure it out. It was the wrong approach. It was just the wrong approach. Like we had an awful year. Our guys never bought into it. We underperformed like crazy. Like I could tell you, like I just know because I had the same personnel the next year and we like doubled or I think 2x or 3x our wins. Just because I ran a different, yeah, guys got better for sure. But I could tell guys were so much more confident. The next year we started running more like spread stuff. Played to our ball screen. Our bigs were more like rollers, so we played to that strength more, right? A lot of, I'm not going to get into the basketball nerd stuff again, but like just stuff that like when I actually sat down and talked about it, it was like, what is our best player Devontae really good at? Okay, how can I highlight that? What are our bigs good and bad at? How can I highlight that? What kind of stuff should they be in? What kind of system should they be in, right? And that's the thing that I think personally, and I am not a soccer expert, so there's no absolute here for sure. But when I think about systems and my experience with systems breed, like the right system breeds a ton of confidence, and a ton of confidence maximizes performance. That's just a really simple formula. A bad system for players, which is a bad fit for them, creates indecision. It creates a lack of confidence. It creates a lack of confidence in you as a coach, right? And sometimes it's not even like, guys weren't like yelling at me that year, change the offense, coach. They just weren't. They liked me. They're like, no, we'll do a better job with it, coach. But we sat down in the offseason and like my assistant was like, he was telling me all year, he's like, I don't think this is right for our guys. I don't think. And I'm like, no, it is. No, it is. And at the end of the year, I was literally like, you're right. That was not right for our guys. And I forced it all year. And our guys like me a lot. So they were like ready to run through the brick wall for me. But if you watch our games from that year, they weren't running through a brick wall for me because like they were not confident the whole year. And like, that's a lot of what we all see. And I think it's a very valid argument at least, right? Which is like our guys don't play hard at times. And it's like, are our guys really just not playing hard? Are they really just soft and like guys that are just like clowns and like bring other dudes in? And I don't think that's true. That's just my feel. I don't think that's true. Now, listen, their play has looked pretty soft. They didn't play very hard in that Panama game with 10 men. I'll just be honest. Like they were not playing hard in the moments you need to play hard. So yes, that's on them. But I'm hoping that U.S. Soccer is thinking a little bit bigger picture than that. And it's not just like, well, the players got to play harder. Because that's a recipe for disaster. Like it's way more complex.
This team, and we've talked about this off air, right, on the phone. This team lacks grit, man. There's no fighters on this team. There's no dog. There's no leader. Like there's not that guy who's going to lay it all on the line. And when you feel like you're in that crunch moment, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that we're in that game. And we're going to try to win. But we historically have had many guys like that, right? You know, that's one of the biggest things about U.S. soccer is even if they weren't on the same talent level, they were going to fight tooth and nail to make sure they're competing in that game. And, you know, that was where is that, man? We don't have there's not even an ounce of resemblance of that nowadays or now in today's team. And I think that starts at the top with Greg Berhalter. He's not instilling that fighter mentality into these players. He just kind of like looks checked out, like he's going through the motions. And we've seen, Adam, that there's like they've been complacent, right? Comfortable. This team doesn't feel like anything. They're not in jeopardy. One of the things, is when it came to the Uruguay game, the perfect example is when Panama scored or Bolivia scored a tie with Panama and Greg's doing this on the sideline. What the hell is wrong with him, man? You don't do that. You should always pretend like you're down no matter what. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Control what you can control.
Yeah. And I think, so the thing that was really, I'll talk a bit about that, right? I think that was a key moment in my opinion, right? It's like, we could still get through here. I was kind of feeling like skeezy about getting through, to be honest, with the way we'd done it. And in all honesty, my heart of hearts knew if we get through right here, he's our coach through the World Cup, right? Mm-hmm. And what we are seeing is not good enough. So like, and I just knew there's no way Alexi Lawless and Clint and all those dudes in a post game where we could have lost to Uruguay, which we did, right? 1-0. We could have lost. Same L. If Bolivia scores a late goal, we go through. Nobody calls for his job, Will. I just don't think. And to me, that's crazy because his actual performance and the team's performance was exactly the same. And like we are so in the media, the media is so reactionary. They say like that the fan base is so overreactionary based on results. I disagree. What I see out of the smart fan base that's around me is people who are looking at performances, not results. And to me, that's the smart thing. I don't think many of us care that much about results. I really don't, because I truly believe that you're not going to get everybody. But I think you and I, if we came out of this and it's like, man, we competed with Colombia and lost 2-1. We tied Brazil 1-1. We took care of Bolivia 2-0 and missed a couple chances. We took care of Panama, maybe 10 men. We still take care of it 1-0, right? It's ugly, but okay, 10 men. And then we lose to Uruguay 1-0. And then we go to the knockouts, and I would have wanted to see us compete. Would I have been like, he should keep his job? I don't know, because there's a lot of data for me beforehand that just still makes me not confident, but I wouldn't be that angry. I'd actually probably say, you know what? That was an okay Copa. And overall, we competed, right? We still haven't proven we can beat anybody, so I don't know, but like, there's all these different like scales of how I think the fans would have reacted, the smart fans. But man, like you got the media, like, are you guys serious? Like, I don't know. And I'm glad they're on our side on this side now of the fence. It helps us a lot, but it's also just it's crazy to me. And so the one thing, let me touch on that real quick. So first of all, I get the idea of changing game state. I get it, right? I think that is soccer. Like, and we can't sit here and say that doesn't exist, right? Like, absolutely. Teams see that they need a draw. You could change the way you play. You can make it a higher percentage chance that you get a draw. So I get it. I'm sure Greg had talked to them about that. Hey, guys, if it's a draw, here's the way we want to play tactically. If it's not, here's the way we want to play. So I'm sure there was something around there when he's doing that. Here's my two cents on it, though, Will. One, you can't do it on a free kick. There's a ton of other dead ball moments that aren't critical where you could deliver that message if that's what you want to do. So that's one. Terrible timing, in my opinion, because all the guys in that moment, they have to lock in for this free kick and defend it so they don't give up a goal. Naturally, that's a big deal that Bolivia just tied it up. Oh, shit, it's 1-1. Oh, damn, that changes everything we're going through right now. What am I not thinking about in that moment? And it's natural. That's natural human tendency. I'm not thinking like, hey, what do I need to do to defend the set piece? Like, so that was crazy. Two is I don't think you should have been doing this because that result wasn't firm, right? If that result was firm, done and dusted, it's like, hey, guys, they just finished it up 1-1. But to your point, we don't know what the end result's going to be. We need to still be thinking goal. Most likely, Panama's still going to win that game. They're a better team. They just were. So, like, the whole mindset, and we didn't have it from the beginning of the game. I thought, okay, it's halftime. Maybe we'll get more aggressive now. Maybe the plan was kind of to secure a 0-0 and be solid, then go after it. We didn't have any attacking subs at half. We didn't have a more attacking mindset in the second half, right? We didn't see that till like the 80th minute. And that's way too late when you need a goal, right? And so we went through all of that. And then in the middle of it, he's like, in the 65th, 1-1, chill. We don't need anything. And it's like, okay, even if we don't get that goal, and now what are we doing? We're going to like bunker for 10-15. Then they're going to score again. Now we have to like gear back up. Like, just like all around bad and mismanaged.
Yeah, and I think that like I said, and a lot of fans said that like perfectly encapsulates Greg Berhalter's tenure as the national team manager, right? That's a blunder. That's just his philosophy, his mindset is, hey guys, look, yeah, it's cool. The wrong one. We'll take it easy, right? Let's park the bus. Just make sure Uruguay doesn't score and we're good. And that's not the kind of coach I want, man. I want an aggressive coach that's going to go for it. Don't rely on someone else's result to get you through. Rely on yourself, what you can control, right? And I honestly believe that when Greg went into that game, Adam, they had no intention of winning against Uruguay. They're like, let's just try to make sure that this is an ugly-ass game. Let's make sure it's a draw, and then let the rest happen. I don't want a coach like that. I want a coach that's going to try to win every single game when all starting 11 lines up against whatever other team we're playing. And I just don't think Greg thinks like that. I think he's complacent. And he's just like, hey, let's just get by, right? I can't remember who told me this. Maybe it was even you. But oh no, it was someone else. My friend had told me, he's like, look, when I was in college, my friend said, don't just take a class and try to get by with a C. Try to get an A, because even if you don't get an A, you get like a B, you still didn't have to worry about ever failing, right? You're still trying to achieve for the best, even if you didn't, reach the best. If you're trying to just get for the bare minimum, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're not putting all the effort and trying your hardest. So that kind of really resonated with me, thinking that's how Greg is. He's just trying to get a C. He's not trying to get an A in class. He's doing the bare minimum job. And this is a thing I was thinking about as well. Do you believe that Greg Berhalter coached that match against Uruguay like his job was on the line?
No. His job, there's no way he thought his job was on the line. I don't think he was close. I think he's probably shocked right now that like his job might be on the line. And I bet he still doesn't think his job's on the line. I think he's so comfortable. And I think everybody in the organization's comfortable. That's top down, man. Like, it's top down. And point blank, like, we can't touch the board. We can't. We cannot touch the board. I get it. People are like, yo, put the board in there. Put the board in. We're not touching the board, guys. The whole thing is insulated in this U.S. soccer, like, old boys, old girls club bubble. It just is. We're not touching that. Like, we're just not. Like, we would have to go like thousands of people to the offices. Like, it would have to be nuts movement. And we're not going to create that. We just aren't. So, like, no, definitely not. And here's another thing I just thought of, and I've thought about this a little bit, is we've seen Greg manage two major tourneys, right? I don't count the Nations League, Gold Cup, like two big ones where, you're going to have some games that are winnable, some games you should win, and some games you probably shouldn't win and you should try and get a result, right? there is something that really good, especially international managers that are good at, called tournament management, right? How do I manage this tournament and tactically go after certain games in certain ways, rest guys at certain times? And I think we've seen two totally mismanaged tourneys. Now, getting out of the group was great in the World Cup, but totally gassed everyone. So we had no chance against Netherlands. We just, guys were done and dusted, roasted. And I get it. It's like, we have to get out of the group. And it's like, yeah, like I don't even want to get into that stuff. I think we could have developed a little bit more depth that would have allowed us to rest more guys. We played Gio Reyna 10 minutes. I get it. That was the whole thing. There's a lot of reasons, but not well managed, in my opinion. We beat Iran 1-0. We tied Wales and gave up a terrible late goal. Like, we got a nice draw against England, and like that's probably how you should play that match. And I was okay with that one. But like overall, we weren't like killing it, and we didn't set ourselves up for any level of success in the knockouts. And then in this one, I think like once again, really mismanaged. Like he had no finger on the pulse in that third game. We needed a win. And to your point, like, he's playing for another signature tie. Like, why are we playing for another signature tie? Like, from the jump, I'm like, hey, MMA and like, I don't know, man.
He can't score, man. That's like always been his downfall. Like he got fired in the second division of Sweden. The Swedish soccer league is hell. I don't even know if it's top 25 in the world. It's pretty low. It's pretty low in the totem pole. So he got fired in the second division of that, of that league. And so
and then he had like pretty decent talent at Columbus and like kind of achieved to the talent level or a little, I don't know, like they won right after he left, right? Like,
yeah, well, in a different league too, because obviously MLS has changed. He hasn't coached MLS in like 6 years. So I think, which, we'll get into this in like another video we do, but I think when he does get fired, I believe he'll probably have options in MLS, which I think any club that would hire him is stupid if they, because I think he's going to struggle at club level with MLS. I think he's really going to struggle because he can't score goals. And MLS is like the one league you have to score goals because everybody's scoring goals in MLS because defending isn't very good. If he can't do that, he is screwed, right? That is like the easiest league to score goals in. But yeah, I mean, he just can't. We can't score, man. Like I knew against Uruguay, if we were going to win, it was going to have to be like a 1. If we were going to win, I didn't think we were going to. But if we were going to win, it's going to be 1-0, right? We're not scoring 2 goals against Uruguay. When's the last time that Greg Berhalter had a game where he scored over 3 goals? It wasn't against a Caribbean team.
I don't know, but I put out there like, wow, watching a little bit of that Colombia-Panama game, like we're not close. And somebody was like, well, we lost 5-1 to them too, and then we lost to Panama. So is it really that shocking? I'm like, it's shocking because I came into the tournament thinking we should beat Panama. We're better than Panama. And like, there's no world we score 5 on them. And somebody's like, we did that in World Cup qualifying. I was like, oh yeah, that was a long time ago. And that feels like a totally different team. Like, I don't know, like, but that's gone, man. Like whatever that was, where we scored 5 goals in that Panama game, like that world doesn't exist anymore. Like we're struggling to put up 2, like everybody's scoring on Bolivia, man. And like, we're struggling to put up 2 on them. And, Jamaica at home, we can't score. We need an own goal. Like, it's been bad for a while. Hey, I want to say one more thing about the running through a wall. Cause like, okay, our guys did not play hard enough. Right. And this has been a hot button topic for sure. And legitimately, you mentioned something before and it kind of came in my head and I'm glad I just remembered it again. Like the groups of the past, and this is a take I totally agree with. They all had an edge, right? I think they were actually a lot of those players were underrated and underevaluated, and there was a stigma behind U.S. soccer players that a lot of younger fans I think won't understand if you weren't there. Where teams, very much like didn't want U.S. soccer players. Now people want them because it's a marketing opportunity. We have good young talent, so it's like there are good players. Back then, it was like, it's like everybody saw an American, and they might be a 7 out of 10 player, but everybody saw them as a 5 because they were American, because like it was like a dirty flag to have on you as a soccer player. And that put a chip on all those guys' shoulders, right? They went into big international games. They're like, I want to prove to all these dudes that I belong because you're not giving me enough opportunity to go play for the kind of clubs that I should be able to play for, right? Or, hey, we're in the MLS, which is a lot of guys are playing in the MLS in those past generations, and our league isn't BS, right? We want to prove to you. So you got teams that would play way harder. We're not as technical. We're not as we're not as skilled overall. I don't think that's a hot take. Some people might, but we weren't able to do a lot of the things with the soccer ball that our current guys can do. But that doesn't matter if you don't have a baseline of effort, right? So now how do you take a young group that maybe is a little bit full of themselves, heads are a little bit big? I play for Uve, I play for Barca, I play for they're all come. That's true, man. Like they're coming in like we play for big clubs. They've said stuff like that, right? We all play for big clubs. And it's like, yeah, but badge FC doesn't matter, guys, if you're not going to play hard. So now you're coming to this environment with these, big egos. Maybe we're a little bit bigger than we think. We think we're bigger than we are. Whose job is it now to bring you down to earth, hold you accountable, make you understand how important it is that the club badge doesn't matter, right? You need to play hard. That's Greg, man. And like you could argue like, well, hey, he was doing it last cycle. He was bringing in MLS guys who would play hard. I don't think he was holding people accountable doing that. I really don't. I think he just liked those guys and thought those guys were good players and wanted to get them in the mix. Like I haven't seen many moments where Greg is like holding guys accountable. His idea of holding people accountable is having like a team meeting and everybody telling Gio Reyna, why they're mad at him or whatever, like whatever that thing. Yeah. Like that's not holding people accountable, man. Having a high level of accountability, it's like when you get to the moment that you need to hold somebody accountable, because I lived this and I failed this. When you get to that moment, if that's the moment that you're first holding them accountable, you've already failed, right? You know who your players are who have a tendency to slack off, who maybe aren't going to go hard for 90, who maybe, like every team has them too, like every team. What great coaches do is they're highly holding them accountable and getting ahead of the curve really early. And then if there are big breakdown moments, yes, they'll bench them or yes, they'll pull them out of the game at half or like all that stuff. We never saw that. And I can't remember seeing somebody get pulled at half ever. And it's like, whoa, he didn't play hard and he's getting pulled at half. Like and it's just because Greg has his guys and his guys now are guys that we like. I like a lot of his guys, but like, they become so comfortable and like, well, I know I'm locked in. Tyler's like, I'm locked in if I'm healthy, right? And it's like, yeah, I guess. Like, like Pulley locked in if I'm like, and I don't disagree. I've argued for some guys being locked in, but the caveat that I've never said that maybe I should have is if they're willing to go hard all the time, and this group's not going hard all the time right now.
No, and that's a great point. These guys, like the McKinneys, the Pulisics, maybe not Reyna, but maybe Reyna now, but maybe not at the World Cup, obviously. But the Adams, the Tim Reams, they are safe. They're complacent. And that's like why the number one word to summarize Greg Berhalter's tenure as national team coach is complacency. Nobody feels like they're under pressure. Everything's good. Let's go get some a Sunny D and some apple slices after the game.
I would add Turner. I would add Weah. I would add Jedi. I don't know if you said those three, but like it's crazy. Like the amount of people in our starting lineup that fall into what you just said, it's like most of the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 games, right? The only change he made was he put Timothy Weah when he got the red card. He put Musa in. That's the only change in all 3 games. Like I said, there was groups that there wasn't a game where we put it all together, right? There wasn't a game where there was just a great performance across the board. Somebody was struggling. He wouldn't make any changes. You go back to that Uruguay game when you have to win. Why are we playing Gio Reyna on the wing? Why aren't we playing him underneath to kind of set things up, distribute, be a playmaker, put Haji Wright on the left side, get Haji Wright, get Christian Pulisic on the field. Obviously, Ballo started to really turn it up after the Panama game. He was looking really good. That was like after that golazo he scored, he looked like, okay, maybe he's arrived. Maybe this is like the turning point where he really starts to put it all together and he's a threat for us. It's like Adam, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. And that's what he kept doing. The only reason Timothy Weah couldn't play is because he got a red card. And I know if he hadn't got that red card, he would have played. They would have had the same starting 11, 3 games in a row. And another thing too, why the hell is Tim Ream at 37 years old playing 3 straight matches within like a 7 or 8, 9 day period? Why are we not giving him a break against Bolivia or a Panama? Why isn't Cameron Carter-Vickers or Miles Robinson getting a chance to get him some rest? He's our best defender. and he's 37 years old. He needs rest. You can't play that much match and have that kind of wear and tear on you and not start to affect you. That's just not, that just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, it went about as bad as it could have gone. I mean, we weren't going to lose to both Bolivia and Panama. And I want to talk about the red because I think that's a big one, right? Like a lot of people have like, I think there's a section, pretty small subsection at this point, that still will say, well, the red. This is about Tim Weah. This is about the red. And like, agreed. Totally changes your game state, totally mixes up what happens in that Panama game. But if based on the last year, you're going to tell me it's guaranteed that we're winning if that red doesn't happen, strong disagree, hard disagree. I've seen us put up terrible performances and squeak out wins. And there's only so many times you're going to get the goal in the 82nd against Trinidad and Tobago, tied 0-0 at home. Trinidad and Tobago were tied 0-0 in the 82nd minute. You can't tell me there's no way we lose to Panama. Like, Panama's way better than TNT. We're playing them both at home. So, like, there's too much evidence that points to the fact that, like, no, it's not guaranteed we win. But, yes, that red card totally changes it. I agree. I think too many people are just like, even like Herc is like, well, the red card happened. I can't put any of that on Greg. And it's like, guys, go look at the goal. I did a breakdown on it. I think you saw it, right? Like, the goal happens. Yes, having an 11th man probably helps. But if you're going to give up, like, holes in the middle of the field with 10 men, and then you're not going to have really anyone put effort in to recover and get back. And it's just like, oh, sure, you can pass the ball past all of us, right? You can bypass our lines. None of us are going to hustle back. We're pretty much all going to jog back. And now you're going to have like a 4v4 or 5v5 with our back line. Like, I get it. The ball had to bounce to the guy, hit it through somebody's legs. But like, the point is like, you can't give up 5v5s like at will just because people pass twice. And like, you're going to get scored on eventually if you do that. Like, that's the whole, that is what soccer is. It's like, go from 11v11 to a smaller number set, 3v3, and it's way easier to break people down 3v3, right? That's the whole thing. Can we pass through this defense and get a 3v3, a 4v3, a 4v4, and now individual playmakers can make stuff happen? And like, that happened, right? And maybe I should clip up more time. That kept happening in that game. And like, I get that Panama wasn't threatening in a way that they were just getting like 1v1s with Turner, but they were getting a ton of opportunities that were unearned because like, it was just like weird positioning, no effort to get back. Like, we weren't acting like we were playing with 10 men, which is really weird, especially once we got a goal. I was like, no, you don't need to park the bus, but just like have some positional discipline. Like, take away the middle of the field, force edge passes, force crosses in. Like, it was really, really weird, really naive. It's almost like we never talked about how to play with 10 men against 10 men. It's the same thing we did against TNT, Trinidad and Tobago. We lost that game. And everybody's like, it's not a big deal, guys. Don't worry. Just a red. And I'm like, well, what happens if in the World Cup we get a red? It happens. Reds happen, man. Refs make bad calls sometimes. We saw that. Like, you're going to get a bad red. Is it just like, we lose, sorry? Like, no, let's get a coach who can hold up and like create a system and create a plan of preparation that gets our guys ready to face that. So, yeah, the red's terrible. Anyway, what are you doing? Like, that's a disaster. But like, we got to be able to play with 10 men against that level team, And honestly, like, why? I don't know. I think I've seen for a while our guys are like just way too hot, way too red. Like Wes McKennie over the last 3 years at times, I'm like, whoa, like, what are you doing? And I get he is a hothead, but like for club, I've seen him go like spike into whatever his like rage zone is. You've seen it with Dest, you've seen it with like a lot of our guys, and it's like, what's going on with the culture? What's going on with how we're emphasizing things? Like, what? Like,
it's a free for all, man. It's a free for all, and it starts with Greg Berhalter. Always has been, and the players feed off of him. He's the leader, right? He's supposed to set the tone, get these guys prepared. Like you said, it feels like when bad things happen to him, he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know that could really happen." I mean, they talked about it, in the video, but I didn't think that could actually happen. Yeah, I guess we're packing it in, right?
I think leadership on the team has been really confused. There's a really good saying, right? It's said across the board. Most of you probably heard it, right? Attitude reflects leadership. Right? Leadership in the coaching, but also internal team leadership. And I think the other thing he's done with this team is it's been very confusing who the internal leaders are. Like the armband gets passed around, right? It's like, well, you gave Walker Zimmerman all these leadership opportunities last camp. He's not even here anymore. Like we have a leadership council, and it's like maybe, and I'm not going to say like I know coaches who have done leadership councils and it's tremendous and it's like dynamic, but whatever, I don't see dynamic leadership. I just don't. Like our leader, Tyler Adams, is like, you know, in massive moments, not tracking back early in games. And like, it's like, why would I respect him? You know, if that's what you do as Tyler Adams and you're trying to yell at me for working hard, and I'm like, dog, I watched the Netherlands game 9 minutes in, man. Like, really? Fight for country? Really? Oh, the badge? Like, I don't know. Like you need to make sure those guys understand the repercussions of like, you know, of lack of effort in certain moments. And you need to develop dynamic leadership in a way that there's just no way people feel comfortable acting out like that. You know, you'll get a hothead every once in a while, but everybody just feels like, I don't know. I look on the field and it's like, nobody's looking to one guy or two guys. It's like all these guys are like, yeah, we're boys. Right. And like, sometimes you need internal players to feel, you know, comfortable challenging people. And I don't see that enough, honestly.
No, and I feel like there's a lack of accountability. You know, there's just nobody's calling, like you said, nobody's calling anybody out. There's a bad performance. Who's the guy that's getting, you know, going to other players and saying, hey, man, we got to do better. This is what we got to do. You can't make boneheaded decisions or mistakes in a crucial part of the game, or you're going to cost it for us. And, you know, it kind of makes me wonder if anyone actually said that to Timothy Weah, or if they just put their arm around him and said, hey, man, it's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll get him next time.
This is my last thing here. The amount of guys on this is my last thing on this camp. I've got a lot more things, but the amount of guys after the game who got interviewed, like there were a couple of spaces going on and I wanted to jump in, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to hold off. I want to see what people say. The amount of guys that were like, yeah, we're good. Everything's good. Like, what the F are you guys talking about? No, it's good. I feel good about where we're going. Like, that's crazy. Like, that is not respecting me as a fan who's like pouring all of this love into you guys and all of this like care. And you're going to tell me, like, Matt Turner, you said after the game and be like, I feel great about everything. Yeah. Like, at least pretend like it's a disaster. Like,
yeah, like accountability. Like, can't we just honestly say that after what we witnessed, that's not good enough and that we need to do better? We're heading. Adam, who the hell? You would have to be some brain damaged patient to believe that what happened is heading in the right direction. I said this. If that's heading in the right direction, I would hate to see what Matt Turner thinks is the wrong direction. You know, like, Jesus, like what's the wrong direction, man? Like, oh my God. But yeah, I mean, listen, it'll be interesting to see what happens. That was a shit show, obviously. It was worst case scenario that, you know, we did not think that was going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. If the pressure,
first team to host Copa America and not go through the group, first ever in the history of Copa America. This didn't start 20 years ago, guys. The first. That's embarrassing. That is an embarrassment.
And that just describes the state of U.S. soccer right now. Embarrassing, complacent, no accountability. But I will say this to end it. We're holding people accountable. We're not just sitting on the sidelines. We're not just going to forget and let things be the status quo. We're holding people accountable. We're pushing for change. And it looks like that's going to happen. Adam, I appreciate you coming on, man. Where can everybody follow you at?
Yeah, right down here at Stan USMNT on X. That's all I do. I'm on there tweeting. You can probably get in an argument with me if you reply. Try and keep it civil. I like to keep it civil. You know, I like arguing. I like debating. But man, there's been some people who have come hard the last couple of days. Like I've gotten some get a life. You know, touch grass. Like, all right, man. Like, all right. Are we arguing here? Like, come on, debate me.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Go argue with Adam. Be respectful at Stan at USMNT. Adam, until next time, I'll see you all soon.